is Robert Hunt, Superintendent of Chagrin Falls Schools, and we are going to try a new series where we touch base with our administrators and probably some teachers along the way just to see how they're doing and how they're managing all of this. And our first opportunity today is with Miss Asher. Thank you, Miss Asher, for joining us today. How are
Sure.
you doing?
I'm doing all right. Definitely, it's been an interesting and new experience for sure, but doing okay.
So let's chat about that. Maybe just talk personally. How are you managing? What's your day-to-day looking like in this kind of whole new world that we're living in?
It looks vastly different. I'm definitely a lot more tired at the end of each day, which I didn't necessarily anticipate right away. But I think when you're focusing on a screen and trying to be available to people, all of the time, especially when you don't have those, 7 to 4 hours, it can get a little taxing. But have made sure to, exercise pretty regularly, take care of myself, do all of those important things, FaceTiming with friends and family as frequently as I can, as they live all across the country, to try to get some sense of normalcy. But the schedule, it varies from day to day, and it is nothing what I expected.
Yeah, so talk about I feel the same way. I feel like I'm in front of a computer all day long, going from kind of meeting to meeting, and I'm lacking that, ability to walk around, touch base with people on a personal nature. But talk about the types of meetings that you are involved with on a daily basis, whether it be in district or out.
Sure. So thus far, I've been able to and have scheduled meetings with each of our departments at the high school. Having those smaller meetings is terrific because it enables us to have that communication back and forth. We've had a couple of large staff meetings, but when you have 70 people within a virtual staff meeting, it doesn't really provide a venue for people to ask a lot of questions. So those have pretty much just been as a presentation. We obviously meet as an administrative team pretty regularly. I've had a couple of meetings with principals from across the state, principals in the area, have done a little bit of work with the Ohio Department of Education. It's been probably one of the more valuable things that I've been able to do is really connect with other administrators to hear how they are tackling things, and trying to get as many good ideas, because we're all learning as we go. And it looks vastly different in every single school. So I've been able to pick some good ideas from other really good admins in the area.
Yeah, I haven't. I've had the opportunity to kind of tap into superintendent groups as well, and it's, I think it's important for everybody to notice that we're kind of all in the same boat, and we're working
Mm-hmm.
together, and we're as much as we are isolated, maybe physically, we're trying to stay connected with our colleagues and do the best we can for the school district for sure.
One of
So
the things
go ahead.
that's been very cool about this is, we've talked a lot about how social media and working in the digital world is really a double-edged sword, because you don't have that human connection. But what has been really remarkable with this is when all of the other human connections are taken away, how thankful I am to have this medium, to have those human connections. So it feels like now more than any other time that we're really using this in the right way, to be able to connect in the way that it was originally intended. And so that's been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, and I know this, certainly came upon us very quickly, and we found out kind of as the governor announced that we were going to be staying
Mm-hmm.
home, encouraged to work virtually. Talk about the launch. I know you only had four instructional days, but talk about the virtual launch academically. What you've seen from the high school perspective, maybe what surprised you. What do you think is going well, and what are you kind of keeping your eye on?
One of the and I've said this to a number of people, I think one of the biggest strengths of the high school staff is their incredible capacity for change. They are willing to take on challenges. They're flexible. Whenever I have what seems like a crazy idea, their response has never been no. their response has been, well, you know what, if that doesn't work, well, what if we tried this? So their willingness to just continually try new things and figure it out and be flexible, to see that happen in a very, very real way right in front of me, is pretty great. But in the same token, their willingness to be flexible, while that's also great, I think probably our biggest fear and struggle right now is just the unknown, and trying to create at least something that kids can expect and bring a sense of normalcy to them, but that normal just looks vastly, vastly different. So I know, teachers want to make sure they're not overwhelming kids and families, but they also want them to continue to be able to learn and be prepared for the future. So where that line falls of how much is too much, how much is not enough, it looks very different in this medium than it would in a face-to-face classroom. So determining what that looks like, and that's been a challenge.
So yeah, that, my next question was the greatest challenge, but maybe then talk about some successes, some things you've seen that staff are doing, and maybe they were actually doing some of this before we launched into this environment. They're doing more of it, but maybe just a couple examples, or
Mm-hmm.
how are you even able to, for the general public, you got 50 teachers, how are you able to manage and monitor what's actually going on?
So they've done all of this prior, not nearly as much. And I think that's why our transition has been as positive as it's been, is because these are things that they have undertaken in the past. For me, it's been teachers have invited me to a variety of things. So when they've had their online office hours, I know Chris Deegan had a virtual breakfast club with her AP Chem students that she invited me to be a part of, just so I could say hello. But they've all made me a co-teacher in their online classes. So I'm able to go in and see the wonderful things that they're doing. I have set up a Google Classroom for our staff at the high school. It's a place where we can share ideas, share resources, but one of the most important things within that classroom, it's also a place where we can celebrate the successes of one another. So where, I am seeing a real success with the staff is it's not just about the content, it's about ensuring that their kids feel okay. And at the end of the first week, without exception, every single staff member put out, whether it be a Google form or some kind of questionnaire, to really determine how the kids were feeling. Not just about, are you understanding the material, but how are you doing with all of this? What are you finding challenging? How is it for you creating a schedule? How can I help you deal with this a little bit better? To see them really focus on the social emotional well-being of our kids more so than the content is pretty special, and I think the pretty big success of all of this.
Yeah, I would say being able to look at it from a district perspective, and obviously online, talking to all these other schools and everybody trying to help each other, we're so much ahead of the curve in terms of having the kind of the framework in place to educate. But
Mm-hmm.
what really has, I think, separated us is that commitment to trying to retain a relationship, trying to connect, and trying to
Yes.
stay with our students on a personal basis, rather
Mm-hmm.
than just pushing out a bunch of worksheets and things of that nature. So I certainly commend the staff and you for pushing that. Obviously, this is a really important time for seniors as they kind of enter into the last phase of high school. And, I think everyone, heart breaks a little bit that this is going on, and, the potential impact of that. And I know I've gotten emails, you've gotten emails about
Mm-hmm.
ideas and thoughts. Maybe just give us an update on, where we're at in terms of those conversations with the big, monumental events. Obviously, we've been through spring musical, and we've got graduation and
Mm-hmm.
prom. What are your thoughts on that, and where do you kind of see those decisions landing in terms of time frame coming in the next, month or so?
As I said earlier, I think the hardest part for the staff and the hardest part for me is the unknown. And I want to be able to make decisions and give everybody concrete answers. And not being able to necessarily do that at this point is frustrating, because I know that they want those answers. So, in a perfect world, the goal is that we can still have these really important events for kids. A lot of that is going to depend on, what we see happen in the next couple of weeks, and how well we are statewide and nationally really able to flatten this curve. So that will help us determine, when we can have these important events. We've been in contact with the Westin, which is our venue for prom, and we have been able to take a look at some alternative dates, and be able to potentially push that back if we have to. So there's some flexibility there. As far as graduation is concerned, one of the ways in which we are very lucky, and I know that it's been a struggle for a lot of the other area principals, is because we do host graduation on site. We don't have to worry about somebody else's schedule. So for a lot of the other schools who either host their graduation in Playhouse Square or at a local university, they're sort of left to the mercy of those venues as to if and when they can reschedule. So I know, I'm sure a lot of parents are seeing other schools communicate out, this is our alternative graduation date. This is exactly what we have planned. We are very lucky because we have the luxury of being able to be flexible. So if we are able to flatten this curve quite a bit, we will be able to look at potentially hosting graduation on another date. If not, then we are looking into some pretty creative alternative options. We really want kids to have these special experiences. It's a pretty big milestone. Leaving K-12 and then moving on into the world, whether it's to college or the workforce or another program, we want to be able to celebrate the work of our students. And so finding a way that we can do that is definitely on the forefront of our mind.
Yeah, and I know I've heard you say this, and I think everyone needs to hear from me as well. We are extremely focused on recognizing the class of 2020 in whatever way we can, because they deserve that, and we have a commitment to make something happen. And that flexibility does give us a good opportunity, but it also a little bit of unknown. So we want people to know that we're seriously looking at that, talking about that, and we'll make sure we can do the best job we can for the class.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. So big day for the legislators yesterday. I know
yes.
I was on the phone, most of the week trying to make connections and push for various things that have come out in legislation and been approved, specifically to the high school. They waived end of course exams, gave flexibility to schools in terms of graduation. And also the College Board made a pretty big announcement in terms of how they're modifying, and some pretty dramatic modifications. We can't in 10 minutes cover all of that, but maybe just react to what's going on and talk about how you're going to lay this out for our parents and our students going forward.
So, I'm thankful that the testing requirements in Ohio were certainly waived, and it does not impact the graduation of our students in the class of 2020. With regards to what this looks like for our freshmen and sophomores, I don't think we know what that impact will be down the road. I do know, though, that I am not worried about it. I think our staff does a really great job preparing kids, and getting a high score on a test just never has never been our focus. And I think because we've really focused on, how we impact kids, how we prepare them for the future, all of those other things have fallen into place. So I'm not particularly worried. I am thankful, though, that that's one less thing that kids have to focus on and teachers need to focus on. especially amidst this different environment. With AP, we are getting more and more information daily. So what it looks like now is that each test will be reduced to 45 minutes. They will all be given online. And how those tests are structured and formatted will look different depending on the subject area. So AP Research, they no longer have the presentation component. They will just submit their very large piece of research and their work there. I think APUSH is only will only be DBQs at this point. There won't be multiple choice. So there are some pretty significant shifts with those tests. The College Board has put out small, almost like online preparation for each of those courses that kids can log on and take a look at. And I know our teachers have been pushing that out to students to help them prepare a little bit more. It is nice to see a lot of universities, though, in the area reacting to this appropriately as well. I do believe, don't quote me because it might be wrong, but I think Case Western announced that they would not consider ACT and SAT scores for the next incoming class, just because they understand how all of this has shifted and changed. So to see a positive reaction from higher ed with regards to admission requirements, I think is pretty terrific. And one of the things that's nice is when you look at a school like Case, it's willing to dive into a student's transcript and evaluate them as a person and more than just a test score. That's a really positive, potential positive movement in education. Our students are more than test scores. They're dynamic, they're complex, and they have so much to offer. And so watching higher ed respond to that in the way that they have, I've been really hopeful and really, really pleased with.
So you anticipate kind of having enough of understanding of where the College Board wants to go, and I know there's information coming out tomorrow, that you would communicate out, more broadly to our parents and students?
So we are meeting with, we'll be meeting with AP teachers shortly. Mark Amarino, who is our AP coordinator, he and I have actually been in communication daily. So once we really understand all of the dynamics, early next week, we will push something out to parents so that parents and students can evaluate those options for their kids. And we want to be able to give them as complete information as we possibly can. And I also want to be mindful of the fact that, kids and parents are on spring break right now, and I want them to take their spring break, and I want them to relax a little bit and not have to worry about some of this. So we'll communicate it out early next week when we're back in the swing of things.
Great. So that's a nice segue into kind of my last question. Obviously, this environment and the stay-at-home order creates an element of isolation for everyone. We're all managing that personally. What advice do you have for students in the high school to kind of stay connected, to help kind of combat that feeling of isolation?
Reach out, communicate. I know the way that I have done it with my friends is, each night we're on FaceTime for a couple of hours. And I think one of the things, as I've said earlier, that's been very cool about this is, at least with my group of friends, we would all text one another, call one another occasionally, but we've made this evening communication and face-to-face communication a nightly thing. It's on our schedules, it's important. So making sure that you do connect with people face-to-face, that you have conversations, that you do more than just a text message. Being able to communicate like this is so important. And so trying to keep that as human as possible is super important. And if they're struggling to find someone to communicate with, reach out to the staff, because we miss them terribly. And the teachers love hearing from students. I know we've had a couple of students that have logged on for office hours and have said, I don't really have any questions, just kind of wanted to hang out for a little bit. And that has made the staff feel really, really great. So we're here for them too. If they need something that has nothing to do with academics, let us know because we're here to help.
So let's talk about that. I mean, every person has a different, kind of size social group. And what if, as a parent, I'm concerned that my child is completely isolating themselves, or as a child, I feel like I'm just, not able to make those connections, and I'm feeling the isolation really playing into my well-being. What steps should I take?
I would say definitely reach out to us, reach out to their guidance counselor. We do have on staff, and she is working with us regularly. Tanya Gordon, who is our SAY counselor, our mental health counselor, has been touching base with quite a few kids. So if they are looking to communicate with somebody from who has a mental health background and that training, we do have those support services. And reaching out to someone to help them learn how to manage all of these things and navigate the way that they're feeling is really important. So reach out to us so that we can get them connected with someone who can help them.
Awesome. So, Miss Asher, any kind of final words, anything I didn't cover that you'd like to speak to today?
We miss everybody. We miss being in the building. We miss the kids quite a bit. We miss one another. I think we've realized how much of a family we really are. And you realize how much time we all spend with one another, particularly when you can't spend that time with one another. So I tell you, this has made me feel very, very thankful to be a part of this school community. A lot of really special people.
Well, not everyone gets to see the hours that you put in, and even more so, it's hard to believe that we're actually working more in this virtual environment, but that's the
Yeah,
reality. And just, from me, and I know our board, and I've gotten countless emails from the community on how positive they are about the rollout at the high school. So commending you and your staff and everything you do, and keep up the great work. And I'm fortunate to have you on this team and leading the high school. So thank you very much. And,
you.
hopefully we don't have to do this again, but if we do, I look forward to talking virtually
Um,
again.
Man, I'm hoping not. And I'm reminded today was supposed to be the home opener
Oh,
for the Indians, and it never falls on spring break. So I was so excited to go, especially living downtown. So, man, that has been a bummer, but that's all right. I figure I'm rocking my Chagrin Falls baseball shirt, in memory of the home opener that wasn't.
there you go. All right. Well, thank you very much. And you have a great day and keep up the great work.
All right, thank you.